With the Buckets Mountains glistening in the morning sunshine, the remnants of a veil of fog rolling across the flats, Gloucester had its best winter face-on to be showcased to the nation for the weather crosses on the Today Show.
It's all happening in our street party in Gloucester, so let's rock it up. We'll do a bit of line dancing and a little bit of weather reading at the same time.
Over 200 of the Shire's 2,500 residents crowded into a chilly main street to be part of the Today experience, and the turnout impressed the town's special guests.
I mean, this is quite an incredible experience. It's very moving for us to have something like this because it's great live television.
They hoed into a hearty breakfast, got a workout with more than a line dance or two, and lapped up Gloucester's morning in the limelight.
Hey!
Its exposure, the local tourism industry hopes, will make Gloucester a draw card for more than just the World Heritage listed Barrington Tops.
To get people to understand there's so much more to Gloucester, there's so much more depth in the product that we have available.
Next stop for Today weatherman Steve Jacobs is Newcastle's Honeysuckle Precinct.
Big challenge for Newcastle, and the people of Gloucester have certainly laid it down today.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
It will be something of a state of origin battle on the water at Tallebudgera. Rivals Caves Beach and Queensland Cruise among those showing just how well drilled they are when it comes to surf rescue skills. And like any serious sport, it's taken hours of training to make it to this level of competition.
We've been doing it for a long time. We work hard at it. We've got to do a lot of hours each year, and we try and do it well.
While Caves Beach has won just about every IRB title imaginable, it's the one the club wants most that's proving hardest to get.
We've got world titles, we've got state titles, we've got branch titles, just about every title in the book. We just can't get an Australian title.
We're going to Queensland quietly confident that we're going to do exceptionally well, but you never like to be overconfident when you're going up against the calibre of competitors that will be trying.
Caves Beach will field 4 crews in the Open Men's Division at the National Championships in mass rescue, team rescue and tube rescue events. They'll be joined by a local women's crew which has won every state event so far this year.
We've raced in all sorts of conditions so far this year and hopefully we can pull it out of the hat in anything.
Colleen West, NBN News. The Boeing boys have been on the picket line for over 3 months, fighting for a collective award. Their camp was Kim Beazley's first stop, the opposition leader lifting their spirits as he renewed the ALP's support for their cause.
The fight that they are putting up is for the dignity of all Australian workers. Boeing has got to negotiate in good faith with its workers. It's got to allow this to go to arbitration.
But the ALP's unexpected decision to abandon their support for compulsory membership of student unions has drawn opposition from university students, his trip coinciding with a protest at the Newcastle campus. He's been accused of dumping ALP ideology and alienating core Labor voters with his new policy.
Obviously, we're a bit disappointed about it. What the Labor position now doesn't recognise is that representation and advocacy of students is an essential role of student organisations.
Labor's compromise would see students pay fees for vital student services and facilities, but union membership would still be voluntary.
But here we've gone halfway to give the students a chance at decent amenities.
Mr Beasley also toured the Port of Newcastle by air. He believes the federal government's stance on port security isn't acceptable in the current global climate.
And frankly, the ports are not being properly looked at. Only about 10% of containers are X-rayed.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It seems tomorrow can't come fast enough.
We're just ready to go. It's been a marathon pre-season.
And while it's been far from a perfect lead up to the A-League, the side couldn't ask for more in the fitness stakes, the entire squad boasting optimum health and enthusiasm to spare.
I think we're gelling really well. I mean, there's a great team spirit.
I feel as though we've got all our guns for the first time since I've been here.
And here's the ammunition the Jets will take into their game against Adelaide tomorrow night. Ante Milicic today named among the certain starters despite earlier injury concerns. While there were laughs at today's pre-game meeting, there's sure to be plenty more nerves when the Jets test the waters of the new competition. At just 19, English teenage striker Guy Bates will be one of the youngest players to put on the Newcastle strip tomorrow night. He'll be playing in front of his family in what's sure to be a game laced with passion.
Obviously you want to go into the game fired up and ready to go, but at the same time you don't want to be too over-motivated and maybe crash into tackles and get yourself into trouble.
We will show the rest of Australia how good the Jets are.
Colleen West, NBN News.
The next state election's not till 2007, but John Brogden is already waving a carrot at regional New South Wales, promising to decentralise big city public sector jobs to areas like the Hunter. And that's music to the ears of local business leaders.
There has been great success recently with the Infringement Processing Bureau, and in the last couple of decades when the tax department relocated to Newcastle. Between both of them, there are well over 1,000 jobs that were created.
Mr Brogden says relocating government agencies out of Sydney will not only save big city office rental dollars for the government, but help stimulate regional economies. Business Chamber boss Kyle Loades says he doesn't mind which side of politics comes through with a plan like this. It's the concept he welcomes.
And it's not just the jobs that are created, it's the immediate flow-on effect with 1,000 families spending more money in the region, which in turn creates more jobs.
A glorious greeting for HMAS's success, Newcastle turning on perfect weather to welcome the 180 crew aboard the supply ship. It was a spectacular sight for the small crowd who lined the dock as family members tried to spot loved ones on board. 26-year-old Petty Officer Tyrone Mason Powell was one of the first to alight the ship.
It's the first time I've ever sailed into my home port, so I was just absolutely stoked to, beautiful day as well, so I couldn't ask for anything better.
The Novocastrian's been in the Navy for over 10 years, most of that time aboard HMAS Success. The Success was launched in 1986 and is the largest ship ever built in Australia for the Australian Navy. It served in the Gulf War and East Timor.
Success is an auxiliary oiler, basically floating service station pretty much. We carry fuel, ammunition, food.
The man in charge, Commander Steve O'Brien, is also a local. He grew up at Blackwell's Park.
To come back is a great thrill for me, to bring back a large ship.
It's a goodwill visit for the Success, providing much needed R&R for the crew and a chance for the public to step aboard between 1 and 4 on Sunday afternoon. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. Chairman of the Newcastle Coal Infrastructure Group, Tony Haggerty, and Minister for Ports and Waterways, Eric Roosendahl, today signed an agreement that could see a third coal loader operating in the Port of Newcastle by the year 2009.
And at the end of that 42-month period, they'll be able to be granted a 35-year lease, which will allow them to get on to building the coal loader immediately.
Port Waratah Coal Services, operator of the existing loaders, was the other group bidding for the chance to further expand its operations. But the state government awarded the opportunity to the NCIG, which is a consortium of 7 companies involved in Hunter Valley coal mining.
The group today that was successful, I think, demonstrated they could improve the capacity of the port in the quickest time possible, and that's why they were successful.
A third loader, which would be built next door to the existing Kooragang facility, would reduce the amount of times ships would have to wait off Newcastle before being loaded.
The capacity of the new facility will be at least 30 million tonnes at the outset, and it'll have some ability to expand beyond that.
The long-awaited plans to dredge the western end of the main harbour channel have also been given the go-ahead.
BHP Billiton will be remediating the southern arm of the Hunter and removing the contaminants from both the banks and sediment from below.
Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
If you hadn't already noticed, the roundball game at a national level returns to Newcastle tonight, the home of rugby league in the city, now accommodating the Jets too. Like most other A-League clubs, Adelaide has experienced all the hype leading up to tonight's kick-off, well and truly prepared after a marathon pre-season.
I don't think we're going to get any fitter. Well, not what you can do without playing games. We'll get a bit of match fitness over the next few weeks. We'll also get some more mental fitness.
We've been training since November, so if we're not ready, we'll never be ready.
Despite suffering a less than ideal pre-season cup campaign, the Jets have the respect of their opponents. Adelaide's vice-captain quick to acknowledge Newcastle's playing power.
A team with Ned Zelic, Ante Milicic and Nicky Carl, they're always going to be a strong team, so I regard them as one of the favourites in the comp as well once they get it all right, so they'll be a very strong team to beat.
But we know we've got a game next Friday night as well, and the week after that and the week after that. We've got 21 weeks plus a 3-week break in Christmas, so virtually 6 months our season will be over, but hopefully it'll be a successful one for us.
It was a crushing win and a timely one for Wyong, hammering Cessnock in last week's semi-final 40-0. But the Central Coast side, which has yet to make a Newcastle grand final, faces league heavyweights Wests on Sunday, the Roos making no secret of who they're going to target.
Ryan Dagwell, their captain coach, he's had a lot of experience. He's been country hooker and New South Wales residence hooker in the past, and he's always a danger from dummy half.
In the minors semi, the Goannas and the Northern Blues will put their seasons on the line tomorrow, with Cessnock enjoying the home ground advantage. In the Valley, Singleton and Aberdeen will play off for a grand final berth on Sunday in Group 21 Rugby League. The Waratahs return from a week off to meet the two Blues at Passmore Oval tomorrow, while on Sunday, Merewether Carlton and University round out the weekend finals in local rugby. Crunch time too in NBN soccer, with Edgeworth hosting South Cardiff on Sunday. Knights centre Brad Tye looks right at home training and signing autographs at the club's headquarters. But the humble 21-year-old almost gave it up a few years ago when he moved from Tamworth to Newcastle to begin life as a professional footballer. His dad Brian, though, quickly removed his son's doubts, Brad going on to set up a promising NRL career.
I've never got much money out of playing football, but to see my young bloke come through, and that's a bonus for me.
Since making his first top-grade appearance against the Raiders in March, Brad has become a regular feature in the Knights' starting 13. He's been named in the centres for this weekend's match against the Sharks, Newcastle's last home game and one which will be attended by the Tye family. Turning 47 next month, his dad also plays rugby league in the Group 4 competition for the Werris Creek Magpies.
Yeah, I'm not that big, but I just had a bit of fire anyway.
Brad, in this time in, say, 10, 15 years, where do you hope to be?
Hopefully still playing footy, probably back in Tamworth somewhere, yeah, and just enjoying my footy, yeah.
And you think you'll play for Werris Creek at all at some stage?
We'll see what happens, hopefully.
Tonight's Friday night football will see two teams trying to break out of a form slump. For the Broncos and the Roosters, their last 5 or 6 weeks has seen them win only one game each. And while the Roosters are basically out of contention for the semis, the Broncos are competition leaders and are desperate to get their consistency back. But there's one bloke in this game who has never lacked consistency, and that's the Roosters' Luke Ricketson. Now, he plays his 300th first grade game, an achievement only reached by 7 other players. But there's another feat that makes him the third person in Rugby League's 97-year history, and that's to play those 300 games with the one club. He'll retire at the end of the year of one of Rugby League's real stalwarts. He's had a great career. Now, Newcastle Knights fans will enjoy their last home game of the season on Saturday night. Ticket sales have gone through the roof for the Knights-Sharks clash, and it will be another sellout. It's also the chance for club supporters to usher out another one of their Knights' favourite sons, and that's Mark Hughes. Now, he leaves the club to go to France. He's represented New South Wales. He's been a 2-time grand final winning hero, and he's held at the highest esteem by the Knights, embodying everything that the club stands for, and that's being the player that every other player wants to play with. He's had an outstanding career, and we certainly wish him all the very best. Let's have a look at round 25's tips. I'm going for the Broncos to break their form slump up there at Suncorp Stadium tonight. On Saturday, 3 games. I'm going for the Tigers, Sea Eagles and the Knights. And Sunday, I'll like the Bulldogs, Eels and the Cowboys. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.
That's going to lead to confusion, so there will be another workshop between the parties to resolve that. But in the meantime, this is taking far too long.
Lights, camera and a good cup of coffee. Everything about this shoot is manicured, set up with precision and nothing done without makeup. Set partly in this factory at Carrington, it's the latest film being shot in the Hunter titled Suburban Mayhem.
It's a black suburban comedy. It's a very sexy drama about a very naughty girl.
That naughty girl is Emily Barclay, and along with her castmates and crew, they'll call Newcastle home for the next 5 weeks, going into full-scale production on Monday. It represents quite an investment in the Hunter, and along with blockbuster Superman Returns on its way, the production deals are potentially worth millions.
That's one of the biggest films currently shooting in the world, and of course will expose Newcastle and Lake Macquarie to millions of viewers.
Producers won't reveal exactly where they intend to shoot the film, but we're told it was the city's Art Deco buildings that caught the eye of location scouts.
They've been here now 5 times to have a look around, so they will be using the city centre, and they have, up to this date, also used Swansea Heads for some aerial photography.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
A crowd of 13,000 was on hand at Energy Australia Stadium, most keen to see Newcastle open the A-League season with a win. But the Jets began taking hits from the start, with Nick Carl crunched. Paul Kohler was tackled heavily, earning Louis Brain a yellow card. Craig Deans was slammed in the back and had to leave the field, and a collision near the goalmouth saw Liam Reddy wind up with a limp. But the ultimate insult came in the 18th minute. Newcastle tried several times to find the net, but it was Adelaide coach John Cosmina who had the last laugh.
To come here under pressure, no one expected us to win except us, and we did.
This is the aftermath of Randall John Harm's discovery that he'd pushed his body too far. The 36-year-old Gatton truckie had travelled 3,500 kilometres in 4 days on little sleep and had used illicit drugs to stay awake. He was heading from Sydney to Uralla near Armidale when his 42-tonne, fully laden semi-trailer drove over a car stopped at traffic signals at roadworks near Cessnock. The crash killed locals 18-year-old Zachariah Sullivan and his mother Sally Ann, while her partner Dennis Beddle was seriously injured. Randall Harm pleaded guilty to dangerous driving causing the deaths and inflicting grievous bodily harm on Mr Beddle. But when Judge Jeff Graham handed down the sentence in East Maitland District Court, he launched a blistering attack on the road transport industry, commenting that many others should have been sharing the dock for moral culpability. He described self-regulation of the industry as an abject failure and added truck drivers were under intolerable pressure, and he pointed to the sheer greed of end users, comments that have been welcomed by Randall Harm's defence counsel.
I do indeed. Obviously self-regulation fails. It's an example of what happens when the dollar drives things.
Crash survivor Dennis Beddle now wants the comments to spark the state and federal governments to act.
Until they get real and stop the people who control the drivers, the contractors, they're the ones that got to be stopped there.
Randall Hum will serve 3 years in jail. He'll be on a 21-month good behaviour bond following his release and has been disqualified from driving for 5 years. Gary Blair, NBN News.
The mammoth operation took 9 months to plan and just 3 hours to execute. 70 emergency service workers this morning attended the scene of a makeshift accident in Muswellbrook, which involved a truck and a car, the truck slamming into a pub, killing the driver and throwing potentially deadly chemicals across the road.
It gives us the opportunity to test our response to emergency situations.
And that's certainly what it did. The New South Wales Fire Brigades, Rural Fire Service, ambulance, police and workers from the Health Department among those involved. Crash victims were attended to, structural damage of the pub assessed, chemicals secured and workers decontaminated.
We look at making sure that we're liaising properly, that we're telling each other what each organisation should know.
The intense training exercises are carried out once a year and aim to highlight operational procedures that need to be improved or modified. Colleen West, NBN News.
Given his track record, you can't help but wonder if race officials had already engraved Paul Arthur's name on the trophy. 21 kilometres of race lay ahead, and if anything, it was a great way to take in the view. Make no mistake of this though, Paul Arthur couldn't be stopped, commanding a huge lead going into the final lap. Further back, the drink station provided some relief, a welcome boost as signs of spring began to show. While aching legs were a common complaint, Paul Arthur was nursing a back injury but went on to grab his 7th half marathon in just over 1 hour, 11 minutes.
And I was supposed to run New Caledonia Marathon last week, and it sort of put me back a couple of weeks now, and I knew coming in today that I'd be lacking a bit of fitness, so I just sort of try not to attack it too hard.
In the women's, Mayfield's Kirsten Malloy used the event as a warm-up to the upcoming World Duathlon Championships to be held in Newcastle.
This is just another training session for that race, I suppose, so the win today was a bonus.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News. This East Maitland backyard is a long way from the realms of World Championship soccer, but it couldn't have served Daniel Ireland better.
I try and do as much as I can every day, kicking or just goalkeeping with Dad.
The yard is complete with goalposts, a homemade gift from his family last Christmas, and one that really does keep on giving.
They give him, frames of reference as far as his goalkeeping is concerned, and he honestly believes that it has significantly improved his keeping, so I'm glad it has.
So much so, he's now a national representative, selected in the Joey's squad to play at the FIFA Under-17 World Championship in Peru next month.
I definitely have to be the highest achievement. I think playing for your country is, the highest that anybody can really go. So yeah, it's very good.
But it will be very tough. The Aussies to meet European champion Turkey. They'll also face the might of Uruguay and Mexico. Daniel, who goes into camp tomorrow, credits the New South Wales Institute of Sport program for his quick rise. Having a hero helps too.
Peter Cech from Chelsea, I think it's probably my idol at the moment. He's a very good goalkeeper.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
This is the aftermath of a fire that came dangerously close to houses at Fingal Bay last night, the blaze jumping a fire trail and burning 26 hectares of scrubland. The Rural Fire and National Parks and Wildlife Services continued mopping up today while investigators have begun examining how and where the blaze started. It's one of 14 fires being monitored across the Hunter tonight.
At this point in time, the areas of concern that we have locally are up in Dungog Shire, where we have two fires burning, one up at Lostock, and that's, we believe, is an escaped hazard reduction burn.
The official fire season begins across much of the region tomorrow, with Port Stephens, Dungog and Lake Macquarie expected to be placed on fire restrictions on the 1st of October. That means those wishing to undertake hazard reduction burns will require a fire permit, and they're encouraged to take extreme care, ensuring they burn on a calm day and with adequate equipment to control the blaze.
And we are seeing an increasing number of hazard reduction burns that are being undertaken that do escape, and it's simply because people don't take these basic precautions.
Colleen West, NBN News.
He's a very strong Thailand fighter called Sakta Sorpakdi. He's had 34 fights for 24 wins, and I'm pretty sure the 22 or 23 of them are by KO.
Rothbury Estate was one of the first sites Foster's management visited within days of completing the South Corp takeover. After a review of both companies' operations, Rothbury's 4,000-tonne winery and 10 hectares of vineyards were identified as surplus capacity. In a statement, Foster's said the decision was no reflection on the quality of the asset, the people who manage them, or the company's commitment to making wines from the Hunter Valley. While Foster's retains the label, NBN News understands the winery will be the subject of intense interest from prospective buyers. The sale comes just 14 months after Foster's decided to sell Rothbury's premium vineyard near Muswellbrook. In an ironic twist, Rosemount's Denman Winery, which was also in the news in June 2004 because of South Corp's decision to cut 100 production and distribution jobs, will now handle Foster's Hunter and Central West operations from harvest 2007. Meantime, another primary industry venture is on the comeback trail, fish farming off Port Stephens. The new owner of Pisces Marine Farms has begun re-establishing the operation near Hawk's Nest. Plans under development include making the business a tourist attraction. Gary Blair, NBN News.
It's yet another chapter in the Swansea Bridge saga. From tomorrow night, both spans of the bridge will be closed between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m, leaving residents and night shift workers stranded or facing an 85-kilometre detour. Otherwise, they'll have to schedule their trip between midnight and 1 a.m.
The times are rotten for us because we start work at 2:45 in the morning in Newcastle. That means we've got to leave here at 2. The bridge is closed, which means we've got to do extra hours travel around the lake.
The closures will last a week as workers attempt to repair the bridge, which is leaking hydrogen gas.
It affects a lot of people, a lot of shift workers, a lot of children who have part-time jobs over the other side of the bridge, Thursday night, Friday nights. Yes, I just think the RTA should have shown a bit more respect for a start.
Swansea RSL Club, which operates until midnight, is one of many businesses affected.
8 o'clock at night is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. It's going to be a very torrid week and we're expecting somewhere in the vicinity of probably a 30% drop in trade.
Also revealed today, public buses which normally travel south over the Swansea Bridge will terminate at Blacksmiths from 8 p.m. tomorrow, leaving passengers marooned. The RTA says if there is a major emergency on the southern side of the bridge, work will cease while emergency vehicles cross. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. Bob Luthwaite is a highly decorated veteran firefighter, a chief superintendent and the recipient of the Australian Fire Service Medal in 2004. But it's his dedication to raising money, particularly for children, which has made him somewhat of a local legend. In fact, over the last 6 years, his command has raised $150,000 for the John Hunter Children's Hospital, KidSafe and the Kids Burn Survivors Support Network. Bob's worked in Newcastle for 8.5 years, the well-liked chief superintendent in charge of 23 stations and 500 staff. He says his departure tomorrow was not an easy decision.
Some trepidation. I'll miss the friendship, camaraderie that is within the fire brigade. We're a big family.
His retirement comes after 40 years as a firefighter, starting at Hornsby and advancing in rank over the years.
I've had a long career, I've enjoyed it, but it's time to hang up the helmet.